Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by Walton Restoration, the trusted name in property restoration. Our guest today, a former number 2 overall pick in the NHL draft, won 2 Stanley Cups, Craig Simpson, one of the top color commentators in the game. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. Coming up! Welcome to the program. Our guest today hails from London, Ontario, now calls Edmonton home. He is a former Michigan State Spartan. He is the first 16-year-old to play Division I hockey. He led the team in scoring as a freshman, the number 2 overall draft pick in 1985, played 10 NHL seasons with Pittsburgh, Edmonton, and Buffalo, 283 NHL goals, 565 points in 701 NHL games, one of the all-time great snipers. He won a pair of Stanley Cups. He led all playoff scorers in 1990. He's a former Oilers assistant coach, an award-winning color commentator for CBC and Sportsnet. Welcome to the program, Craig Simpson. Good to have you, my friend.
How you doing, Joe? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Very well, thank you. Now, we like to begin at the beginning. You have a very athletic family. Your dad was a fullback for the Western Mustangs. Your mom was an Olympic caliber sprinter. She qualified to be an Olympian. Also a cheerleader. What did you learn from your parents about life and sports and life in general?
Well, I think a great combination in the sense that they were all very much involved and interested in sports, but probably more importantly, education and academics. My dad's a PhD. My mom was a teacher. My eldest sister was a PhD in English. My brother, an MBA. My sister at Western Ontario. I'm the only one in the family that didn't go to Western. We grew up in London, so Western was very much a part of our lives in every step. But I think the great balance of life of, being a part of a team and learning how to be a good teammate and solve problems together. The importance of being active as a young kid, I think, was always at the forefront. And my brother Dave was 5 years older than me, and to watch him go through his path 5 years behind him really set the stage for me to sort of set goals. He was a great London Knight, won the Canadian Junior Player of the Year as a 20-year-old, and he was a great role model. So I think that kind of upbringing really forced you to just be active and stay involved in sports and school as much as you could.
Okay, so watching Brother Dave play in the CHL and star for the hometown London Knights and be part of that, what made you decide that you wanted to go to the university route instead?
Well, you know what? Dave had been asked by Ron Mason, too, when he was at Bowling Green. So I remember Ron coming to our house, and Ron, who ended up being my coach at Michigan State University and a Hall of Fame coach in college hockey, had hockey schools at the Huron Hockey School. So there was a good connection for understanding what the college game was at that point, more than maybe, most families were. Dave was fortunate to play in London and continue and get his university degree while he was playing junior hockey, which not a lot of guys are able to do. My mom, when Dave was on long road trips, my mom would go and take notes at classes for him. And so she loved being back at Western and being in that environment as well. So I had the unique opportunity. I was 14 playing for the Western Junior B London Diamonds. And then when I was 15, it was pretty clear that, from an OHL standpoint, I was probably going to go and get drafted by Sault Ste. Marie, Sudbury, someone away from London, which might make it more difficult to keep the school going, like my brother was able to do at home. So we started looking into the opportunity to go to college and at Michigan State. And because I was so young, we only looked at two places, Michigan and Michigan State. And the weekend that I went and when I met Ron and met the team and saw the campus, for me it was sold, and the rest is history.
So that was it then, because of you being 16, proximity was really important for you.
Yeah, we didn't really look anywhere else. It was a 3-hour drive from London. My mom and dad could come down every weekend to see me play, and if I needed any support, they could be there. But I think I always had played, with older players, and that wasn't an uncomfortable thing at all. My parents actually felt I was mature enough to handle the schoolwork, handle the hockey work, but the proximity was one, and again the familiarity. My London Diamonds coach, Randy Neal, was a former Michigan grad, so he had Michigan pushing towards trying to get me, and of course I knew Ron very well from Michigan State, so I just narrowed it down to those two. And as I said, when I walked into Munn Arena at Michigan State to watch, it was clear to me that this is where I wanted to be.
So clearly, school was okay, and pretty easy for you. You skipped the grade, and that's why you're able to join the NCAA Spartans at the Michigan State Spartans at the age of 16, which is really young. And you led the team in scoring. That's pretty phenomenal when you think about it. You're playing against 20-year-olds and older.
Yeah, we had a mature team. We had a really good team. I had some great teammates. My captain was Newell Brown, who's had a long history in the National Hockey League now as a coach as well. And Tom Anastas and Lyle Fair. I played with juniors on my wings, and Ron gave me lots of confidence. He gave me lots of responsibility. And the amazing thing about that first year, it was 1983, 84, and we went to the Final Four, which was in Lake Placid. So literally 4 years after the
Wow.
Miracle on Ice, and watching the games there with the USA team, that was amazing to be a part of that. We didn't end up getting the job done and winning that year, but the experience was such a good one.
So after your career at Michigan State, you're eligible for the NHL draft, and the Leafs had the number one pick. But you decided, I think, against going to Toronto, or was that what happened? Or you let them know that didn't want to go? Tell us what happened at that time.
Yeah, I said the story grows longer or bigger when it gets older, I guess. But no, I think the ultimate reality was at that point you didn't have the same interaction with teams that you do now with all the top prospects. But I did have interviews with the top three teams. Toronto was first, Pittsburgh was second, and New Jersey was third. So we went around. I was still keeping my eligibility to go back to school. We had an amazing team at Michigan State. Still, we only lost 6 games the year of my draft year, and so I knew the option of going back was going to be a good one. Ultimately, Michigan State ended up winning the national championship the year I left. So you knew we had a
Yeah.
good team. So my interactions with the teams were just talking with the GM and the coach, and let's face it, at that point, Toronto had not had a great, the 80s were not a great decade for the Leafs in terms of building the futures of a lot of good players, and the franchise was struggling. I grew up in London, Ontario. Daryl Sittler was my favorite player. The Leafs, back then you only had two teams you could watch. You could watch the Canadians or the Leafs,
You're
and
right.
I was a Leaf fan. So it wasn't the case at all. I mean, the notion of being able to play close to home was a good one. All I said after the meetings with them is, I looked at Pittsburgh and said, they had Mario Lemieux coming off a 100-point season as the Calder
Mm.
Trophy winner. The opportunity to play with a guy like that is a generational player. All we said was they didn't really tip their hand to whether they were going to take me or they were going to take Wendell or who was going to be their number one pick. And all we said to them was, if you're going to take me, I think I'm going to go back to university for my third and fourth years. So, at the end of the day, it was a perfect pick for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Wendell
Right.
was an amazing fit, and for me, I just looked at the chance to get to play with Mario was such a good one, and ultimately, it turned out well for both sides.
Right, and the Penguins had a great organization at that particular time. They were building for the future, and of course, eventually they would get things done, and it worked out for both parties, didn't it? So, what was it like though? You
Yes.
get drafted to get drafted second overall, get drafted, go to the NHL draft, and being drafted, and having the Penguins calling your name.
It's a bit surreal. I wasn't too worried about whether I was first overall, second overall, or not. I mean, we went into the draft unsure of which number it would be. I just think that I've always been of the mindset all the draft really does is decide where you're going to get the opportunity to start your career. The work starts then. I think it's a dangerous notion if you're thinking that you've accomplished anything by getting drafted. The work actually starts once the draft is done. And I just think I was proud to get the opportunity to go to Pittsburgh and prove I could be a player. My first year as a rookie was not a great one, and so it was a great wake up call. It's probably the first time in my hockey career that my year was a struggle, and it wasn't an easy one. And I think that it was a great lesson on just the focus you have to have as a player and the consistency you need to get through the difficult times. So it was an exciting launch to the journey. Not an easy one for the first year, but by the time the second year came around, I felt I knew exactly what I needed to do to be a successful player.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You guys, you kept the contract negotiations within the family, and we have some clips of that process. Vic,
The
roll
reason
that.
for my parents doing it was I wanted to keep my eligibility at college open to me, and the only way of doing that is to not have an agent. And to negotiate for a contract, you need someone in the position of an agent, and my father, who through his business has been negotiating practically all his life, was a prime candidate for that.
Tough moments in the negotiation, but never any real snarly moments, never any difficult situations. We came to have great admiration for Eddie Johnson through those negotiations.
Fantastic. It's a great day for us, and we've talked to him quite often, and we just never thought he was going to be there, and we're just ecstatic that just a great boy and a great family, and we're just thrilled as hell.
Some cool memories, I'm sure that brings back for you.
Yeah, Eddie's such a nice man too, and I still, I went and lived like Mario did with the Matthews family, Tom and Nancy Matthews, in Pittsburgh, and they became like family to me, and they were friends with Eddie away from the rink, and they brought Mario into their home in his first year, the latter part, and it was such a good calming influence for an 18-year-old kid to have a family. They had three boys who had all now just moved out of the house, so they were a little bit of an empty nesters. And it's amazing the path that sports takes you. Tom and Nancy are still like family to my kids and to me every time I'm in Pittsburgh. This last year, I was actually there again on the 36th anniversary of the trade, and had an opportunity to still talk to Eddie Johnson, who continues to be a friend too. So, the journey of sports is always an intriguing one, and it connects so many different people within your life.
So that first year you did this, I believe this is your first ever Hockey Night in Canada interview during the 86 season. Let's listen to that.
Mario Lemieux, are you surprised at him? You didn't see anybody like him in college hockey, I'll bet.
There's no question about that. He's a superb hockey player, and in training camp you're in a little bit of awe of him, and some of the things he does are just incredible. And it's been a real pleasure to play for him, and he's been a great help to me on and off the ice.
So tell us about playing with Mario and your impressions back then.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway I had was, especially early on, Mario was a pretty shy guy, so he didn't necessarily, talk to media all that much. He was obviously early in his career dealing with the language a little bit, but on the ice, it was just amazing. You shake your head and you look at special players that it just seems the puck follows him around. It would go through the legs of three guys, and he'd somehow be able to make a play and sift it through and still get a goal. I think what I learned the most about just the game is taking pieces of everybody's excellence and understanding the things that they do so well, and how can you emulate that. To me, I always saw Mario would be able to get the puck quickly in a crowded area and get the puck exactly where he wanted to on goal. And one of the things I really took from him, and it actually something I worked on extensively, was he always said, I've always been able to shoot and try to go off the post and in. The quicker you can, it's not how hard you shoot, it's the positioning of your shot. And I used to watch him and say, how did that puck go in the net? Because it wasn't even a bomb of a shot, but it was on and off his stick and off the post and in the perfect place. You see it commonplace now. Look at the skills of the snipers these days. The best scorers in the league can put the puck exactly where they want to. And I just think it was a great start to your career to be able to watch somebody who was so special. And I think the launching pad for Mario, and watching him in the Canada Cup in 1987 at training camp. So it was my third year in the league, and training camp starting there, and to see him for the first time play on a team with great players as well, because we were not a playoff team, we were not a great team. And as a friend and a teammate, it was just amazing to watch what he and Wayne were able to do, and what a transformation it was for Mario, finally getting to play with the best players in the league and getting to play for something that really meant. And that was as much an inspiring time for me to watch my friend and a guy who I looked and admired to get the opportunity to show just how great he was.
Yeah, a lot of people believe that Gretzky and et al. Rubbed off on Mario in a real positive way in that '87 Canada Cup, and of course, you know, after that he was a different player, and of course you had a different team to work with too. And a couple of years later, they're winning Stanley Cups. But the way that those other players rubbed off on Mario, I think Mario's clearly rubbing off on you because. Even though you said you struggled in that first year, you did have your moments like your first career hat trick in 1986. Do you remember this?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, Mario got hurt, and I got to play up the lineup a little bit. I played center, first, second line, and in the Forum in Montreal against Patrick Waugh, it was, something I definitely remember. Not. I think as a kid, you get in your mind, your first goal. Okay, that's going to be a big moment. But yeah, to get your first hat trick, and what was amazing. As you go through the league early on in your career, just the places that you'd watched with a black and white TV with the rabbit ears, and at night watching Hockey Night in Canada, and you're going, I'm playing in this building. And obviously the Maple Leaf Gardens was one, but the Forum to me was one that just the history that they had. So to get your first hat trick in the Forum was a pretty special time.
Yeah, it looked like some real pinch me moments there. You're being interviewed by Brian McFarland on Hockey Night in Canada. You're playing with. I'm sure you had a lot of pinch me moments there.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the growth that you have to have as a young player, of realizing, okay, you're here now. Now you've got to do something with it. Like now, okay, your first go round of I remember playing the first game against Wayne Gretzky. You spent your life going, this is the best player of my generation, the 6-7 years older than me. So you've been watching him since I was about 11 or 12. And now all of a sudden you're lining up for a face-off and you're like, holy cow, that's Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
I think that is something, and today, you got to remember then too, like the games weren't all on TV, so you didn't have access to these players as much as kids growing up now would, and they can see every game, they can see every shot. There's a little bit of mystery because you never really got to see them live all that much, and all of a sudden now you're playing against those kind of great players, and I think that's what's still, no matter what whether you're a first or second overall draft pick, it's still you're playing in the best league in the world and playing against the best players. And I think that's exciting, and it brings a lot of growth to you as a player to try to measure yourself against those guys.
Right, and it's giving you an opportunity to get other opportunities like commercial work. Vic, let's roll that.
Hi, I'm Craig Simpson of the Pittsburgh Penguins. You know, one of the biggest thrills in playing hockey is scoring a hat trick. So what makes it even more satisfying is when teamwork's involved. The team at Benson Lincoln Mercury Mercure will show you satisfaction before, during, and after you buy a new car. You'll find a large selection, helpful salespeople, great deals, and dependable service. That's why we're Pennsylvania's #1 dealer.
Okay, so what are your
Well,
thoughts to get back at that guy?
They live on forever, don't they? I'd say
Yeah.
you can't find those and burn those anywhere. Yeah, you know that would have been an 18 or 19-year-old me, and the 56-year-old me kind of laughs and looks back on those moments for sure.
Yeah, that was good. But that's Paul Patsko. He's able to dig up some incredible footage for us. Okay, okay, you mentioned you weren't really fulfilling your potential in Pittsburgh for whatever reason. Is there anything specific that was holding you back, you think, in retrospect? Because things did get better when you
No,
moved to Edmonton.
No, I think I took responsibility my first year. I had 11 goals and 28 points. First time in my real life that I didn't have what you would consider a successful season. So, but next year, I got the opportunity to play more. I understood what I needed to do. I took responsibility that I needed to train better, be in a position of get my confidence early on. So my second year, I had 26 goals and 51 points, and felt I was making good progress. My third year, I felt I was it ended up being the best year of my career. But no, I think the only real struggle I felt was year number one, and I just. I think it was a great lesson because, especially as a high pick, you had the responsibility of trying to carve yourself a career, and I took ownership in the summer, and I felt second year to be a 26 goal scorer and a top 3 guy on our team got me in the feeling that I belonged here and I could have some success here. And by the third year, the uniqueness of the third year was because of Paul Coffey was holding out in Edmonton after they won their third cup in 4 years. You look around the league and everyone's going, well, who needs Paul Coffey the most? Well, Mario Lemieux still in his 4 years or 3 years hasn't made the playoffs. They've never had a defenseman who can carry the mail like that. It was a place that you knew that probably Paul Coffey was going to go. So right from the day one of training camp, my name was involved in some rumors of where, who might go the other way. And as I said, coming off the Canada Cup where, Mario played with Paul, Mario played with Wayne, you get talking and you figure that that's probably something that's going to happen. So it was a motivator to me in my third year. Go, listen, I'm going to have the best start that I can. Going to get off to a great beginning of my third year in the National Hockey League, and whatever happens, happens. And ultimately, it ended up being the best thing for my career. Was Paul went to Pittsburgh, I went to Edmonton, and the rest was an amazing journey for me.
At the time of the trade, were you disappointed? Did you feel like they'd given up on you, or I know you
No,
sort of
not at all.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Like that time, our last 2 games, it was my last 2. I played 21 games in Pittsburgh that year, and our last 2 were on a Western swing, and we played in Edmonton and Calgary. And you got to remember too, in 1987, there's not the social media, so you had to read a paper to actually get a scoop, and you had to listen to a radio show. So information didn't flow like it does now. But I remember that game in Edmonton. I had been playing some wing, and I ended up playing center, and I played it against Mess all night. And for me, it was like here's an audition where how can you play against the top player, and how do you handle yourself? We actually lost 4-1 that game, and I scored the only goal. My last goal as a Penguin was against Furzy and the Oilers.
Uh-huh.
And then the next day we were in Calgary, and we tied 4-4 and flew all the way back to Pittsburgh. And of course, as it goes, the next day of practice, I got called into Eddie's room, and the deal was done. And I had to go all the way back. So, no, it was an exciting, anytime you get traded. But I'm looking and going, I'm leaving, Mario, one of the game's greatest players, and I'm going to the best team in the world. And the going to play with Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Yari Curry, Grant Fuhr, Glenn Anderson, you name it. I was worried. I had the best start for me of the season. I had 13 goals in the first 21 games, so I was having a great start to the year. And my only concern going to Edmonton was, oh gosh, am I going to get to play as much as I was in Pittsburgh? But no, it's a shock getting traded. Had to leave the Matthews family, who I cared about greatly there in Pittsburgh. But I knew it was going to be a life-changing opportunity to get to play for the Oilers.
Yeah. What was it like playing on the line with Mark Messier and Glenn Anderson? I mean, there's some firepower and experience there for you.
Yeah, it was. Again, it was life-changing, and I said that, having in my third year, I really felt this was the year I got to prove that I can play as an all-star. I'd be a star player in this league, and my mindset was in such a good place with the Penguins there. Now all of a sudden, I'm going to a team that is the Stanley Cup champions and has amazing players. Where the heck am I going to play? And so, my biggest concern was now I'm not going to get the opportunity I had in Pittsburgh coming to Edmonton. I've said this many times. Glenn Sather was amazing. All that going through my mind of saying, now I come here. What if I struggle? I'm on the third or fourth line. How's that all going to play? When I came in, he said right off the bat, he goes, Craig, I brought you here to help us win a Stanley Cup. I need you to be better than you've ever been. I need you to grow and be stronger than you've ever played. And I'm going to play on the left side with Messier and Anderson. And so I just sort of looked and said, okay, that sounds good. And I've said it before, though. It's brilliant from the standpoint of it took away any excuse I had not to continue to be productive. It took away any ambiguity of, okay, you're not wanted here, or this is, we got to find you a place to play. It was like, I'm going to give you the opportunity. I'm going to give you the players and the resources. Now it's up to you. And I thought it was an incredible move that really changed things for me. And Mark and Glenn as line mates and teammates were just such amazing players and people, and taught me how to be a winner. It was a life-changing and career-changing moment.
Yeah, you get an opportunity to win a Stanley Cup with that group, but you were also there when Gretzky was traded. What was that like? I mean, what was it like to be there at that particular time?
Yeah, it was surreal. Wayne was so good to me when I came in. I got traded November 24th, 87, and spent Christmas with he and Janet in Edmonton there. And then, of course, we won the Stanley Cup. And in August, I had planned to go down to LA to play golf with him, to train with him from, I think I landed there, August 6th. So if you know the date, August 6th, 88. And again, Wayne was such an amazing teammate and is such a great person. And so when I got down there, again, it's not like today's world where information is strewn everywhere and you can get it instantaneously. Lots of rumors swirling. And when I landed at the airport with him, he goes, I said, what's going on? There's all these kind of rumors. He goes, well, yeah, there's some things happening. And then we went to Janet's condo to just get some stuff, because we were actually going to stay at Alan Thicke's place. And back in those days, when you had an answering machine, the red light was beeping. So we pressed the machine, and the voice was Bruce McNall, and it was like, Bruce, there he goes, Wayne, this is Bruce. Sounds like the deal is going to get done. And he started going through this, and I'm looking, going, oh, you got to be kidding me. So
Jeez.
the fact that we had such a good team, I mean, we went 16-2 that year to win the Stanley Cup, and the 2 losses were not even really, a big concern. So that team was such a good group, and for me as a 21-year-old kid, coming into that, I thought, like, what an opportunity here to play. And then now, boom, it's all changing with Wayne getting traded. So it was a surreal time. It was pretty unique being down there. I was at the press conference in LA as an Edmonton Oiler, having to watch the Los Angeles Kings get our best player. So it was very surreal, but again, life-changing for the NHL and for Wayne too, how much it changed things and the landscape of hockey down there.
Yeah, it's a different game today as a result of that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it
So
sure is.
you're in the you and the Oilers are trying to rebound from that. It didn't go well that first year. You end up losing to Gretzky and the Kings in the Cup final. What was that like for you? Facing Wayne in the playoffs.
Yeah, we weren't prepared to play him like we would playing any other great player. We weren't hard enough on him. We allowed them back in the series. We were up 3-1 in the first round there against LA, and we didn't close the deal. And if you're being honest with yourself, we didn't attack Wayne like we would if it was Mario Lemieux, because it was hard. It was hard to play hard on him like you would a star player. And Game 7 was in the Forum in Los Angeles, and Wayne ended up getting an empty net goal that ended basically any chance for us to get it. And I just remember it was a tough year for all of us dealing with, the significant change, and Slats had stayed behind the bench that year to, try to guide us through. And when we lost that Game 7 in the first round to get eliminated, and back then, not many teams had come back from a 3-1 deficit. It was an unusual thing for it to happen. So it was a big deal for us to blow it as the Stanley Cup reigning champs. And all he said was, guys, I want you to remember your buddy right there. And the only takeaway we need to have now is that you got to cut the ties. And you remember your buddy dancing through the middle of the ice as he scored in the empty net, or sticking it, where, to you guys. Yeah. And let's get – so I think it was the break that we needed to have. It took a year to get there. But, the next year we were a different team, and we had some great moments prior to going into the playoff run the next year where we had – probably had one of the most penalized games against Los Angeles in about February of the next year, that it was clear that we needed to change our mindset playing against the guy that obviously you love and you hate having to play against. But if we're going to be successful, we got to play him like we would anybody else.
Yeah, and the following year, of course, you did. That was a great playoff run for you guys, going all the way. Going all the way. You set records in your career. A shooting percentage of almost 24%. It was an NHL record. That jumped to 33.65% in the postseason. What was the key to that distinction? Is that you're talking about when you're watching Mario shooting him off the puck and in and releasing quickly? Is that happening for you?
Yeah, that's part of it for sure. I do think it was a mindset playing with him. I used to take pucks and try to frame the net in my mind, the red posts. And so anywhere you were shooting from, it was always, I had it off the post and in, off the post and in. And I'd practice every single day. And, I was pretty diligent on, I didn't waste a lot of shots. The year I had 56 goals, I only had 177 shots. So that's like 36.5%,
wow,
which is ridiculous. But, and you look at the guys I played with in Edmonton, having, Mess and Andy, which were so dynamic. I spent so much time in front of the net, and I was always able to find the open ice, and I get a lot of one-time shots, which are high percentage shots in tight. I wasn't a guy who would come down the wing and just blow a shot on net just for the sake of shooting. So I do think there's an element of selectiveness in the way I did prepare to shoot. But no, I go back to watching Mario, and that's something from when I was an 18-year-old. I focused, if I'm going to place a shot, I got to make sure that I'm putting it as close to the post and in as I can. Always look for space when the goalie's moving, and shoot to that. So I'm proud of that, but I don't know if it's anything specific I did other than I got to play with some amazing players that gave me great opportunities for shots.
Facing the Bruins in that 1990 final, Harry Neal said Game 4 was one of the best games he'd ever seen you play. Would you agree with that, or do you think it was up there?
Yeah, Game 4, it's amazing. It's a good reminder for me in my broadcasting role now of just how much the game changes. Wayne always said there's 3 seasons. There's the regular season, there's the playoffs, and then there's the Stanley Cup final. And the Stanley Cup final really is a different animal of its own. You could be having an amazing year, from the regular season, have an amazing playoff, but if you don't play well in the final, it changes everything, and all of a sudden you can lose. So this particular one, coming off, we split we won both games. Sorry, in Boston, and we went and lost a 2-1 tight game in Game 3 on home ice, and it's amazing what the press, and our line hadn't scored a bunch. I think. Anyways, the pressure. I think it was Mark only had I think an assist or 2 assists at that point. Our best player, our captain. And I remember the media going, well, what's wrong with your line and what's going on? I said, we're up 2-1 in the Stanley Cup final, but it was a good reminder. So I just remember those moments. There was Game 4 in Chicago in the conference final where Mess was just outworldly. And having those moments and coming along and playing with him and that, Glenn and I on the sides, we just knew Game 4 was going to be our stand. We had to win that game on home ice to go back and have a chance to win. And quite frankly, those are the moments that you think of the most with your teammates. And I got to play with 2 Hall of Fame guys who were just big game players. And so no question. And even though we were up 2-1, that was a game we had to win. And our line came out and I think scored 4 of the goals in that game. So it was one that you definitely stands out and you remember.
Well, you were such a key contributor to that. I think they ended up giving Ranford this Conn Smythe Trophy, if I'm not mistaken. But you led the league in playoff scoring that year. Do you remember the Game 5, this goal in Game 5?
Yeah, well, how about this is it ends up being a game-winning Stanley Cup game-winning goal. My buddies always laugh. I don't remember many goals when I wasn't either on the ice or in the net after the puck went in there. And I ended up playing with Sweeney, who knocked me in there in Buffalo too. But this is a play by Glenn Anderson that is just outworldly. Again, the great players we had, and to get a chance to play with Mess and Andy, watch as this one comes.
Yeah.
Andy scored a beautiful goal earlier on. Mess is getting held in the middle, and Andy a no-look pass from behind. I just think that kind of chemistry that we had as a line was pretty special. And that 1990, I said to my dad, the interesting part was I was almost a little depressed after we won. I don't even know how to describe it. The exhilaration of, for me, winning my second Stanley Cup. And as you mentioned, this time, I led the playoffs in goals and points. Mess and I were tied there. It wasn't that I was depressed that we won the cup. I was a little depressed that I wanted to keep playing. Like you're playing the best hockey of your life. You've dreamt. And I've even, the cup in '88 was really special too. And Wayne was so good. Our line was good in that one too. But this one was, I just remember going, I want to keep playing, because you never know if you're ever going to get back to that moment again. Never know if you're going to get to play for the Stanley Cup again. And you're never quite sure if your game will ever get to those key moments where you feel so confident and comfortable in the way you're playing. And, ultimately, it didn't. But I do remember those moments of just thinking how special it was to be playing at that level with so much on the line with guys that you loved, and it was so much fun to play with.
You moved on to Buffalo from Edmonton, got a chance to play with Pat LaFontaine and Alex McGillney. That must have been okay too. I'm thinking if you get you play with some good
Yeah,
players.
I've had some good wingers. Elmo was great. Patty was such a good player. The time in Buffalo, my back was really in trouble, and I think I played 20 games each of the 2 years, and honestly played with like a knife in my back. So my memories of my last couple years, in chronic pain and not a lot of positive ones, but another opportunity to play with some special guys. And, Patty was such a good player. Dale Howardchuk, Dale was my roommate.
Mm.
And, unfortunately for both of us, by the second year, his hip was so bad and my back was bad. We were just practice squad teammates at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But again, playing with Alexander McGillney and Patty was pretty special. And getting a chance, even though it was near the end of his career with Ducky, was just such a great guy, and to have him as a roommate, later on in my career, I respected him. We had such battles against the Winnipeg Jets with the Oilers too, so to share some moments as a teammate was really special with him.
Yeah, Ducky was great. All right, so you're having to call it a career at the age of 28, basically in the prime of your career. Was how did you handle that? How was that for you? Was it difficult to
It
take?
was, yeah, it was, but honestly, as I said, my last year in Edmonton, uh, I I was in the worst pain of my life. So my last 3 years of playing hockey, from a memory trigger, were the most painful
Mm.
times I've ever had. So, I think in some ways, definitely it was sad in the sense that the game has changed. The money was getting enormous. You miss all those little journeys along the way, that the timing of everything. But as a 23-year-old, I'd been having trouble since I was 25, and so now at that point, I had two young kids, and I remember my daughter was about 12 pounds, just having been born, and I literally couldn't hold her and feed her. My back was so bad. So mentally, it was in some ways the best way to get out of the game. I wish it hadn't have been so early in my career, but at least you're not sitting and going, well, no, I think I could keep playing. I should have kept going, or I should have done this. I think it was an easy way to have a difficult separation from the player mentality to what's going on now in life. It was hard to do it so young, but I think it was important and an easy one to separate. I didn't dream and wish I was still playing. I knew I couldn't, and it was just time to move on.
I guess playing 3 years with excruciating pain all the time help you make that decision for sure. So on to coaching. You did some coaching with the Oilers, help lead them to the Cup final. Did you consider doing it permanently?
Well, you know what? I actually, how it ended up going was, you know, Craig McTavish, Kevin Lowe are 6 and 7 years older than I am. And so as we were teammates, it was kind of always thinking, you know, as I played longer, they'd be retiring and they'd be getting into coaching or GM, as they ended up doing. And it would be a great opportunity when my career is done to follow in. And, we kind of always
Hmm.
talk that that's something that we'd like to do. Instead, I was the one who was done. The young guy was done early. So I went into TV to start. And then when Sportsnet the first time lost the national rights and we were no longer doing any national games, I was only doing Oiler regional games. I looked and said to them, I think it's time to get out of this and get back into the hockey part, because I'm doing only Oiler games. I'd rather be coaching with them than
Uh-huh.
only broadcasting them. So no, I think at the end, having the experience of going to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup in 2006, Craig McTavish was one of my favorite teammates and roommate a number of times in my time in Edmonton. Kevin Lowe has been a friend since the day I got to Edmonton, and just have the utmost respect. Charlie Huddy, Billy Moores, again, you go in as a coach, it's like being a player. You have to be connected with your coaching mates and your general manager, and that experience was one I'll never forget, and probably the most devastating hockey moment I've ever been involved in, losing Game 7 in Carolina. I still hate going to do games in Carolina because of those memories. And, you feel so much what we shared as teammates winning the cup. I just felt for our players, like, Sean Horkoff and Fernando Pisani and Steve Stais and Jason Smith, guys who just played so hard that entire year, and then to get there and get nothing out of it. A great experience, but another reminder of just how difficult it is to win and how devastating it is when you didn't.
Well, you've had some great mentors in your life close to home. Your parents were terrific, examples for you to follow. Your brother Dave in hockey. And when it came to broadcasting, your sister Christine, award-winning broadcaster. We have a look at some of her work. Let's roll that, Vic.
The Flyers right now sitting just 2 points behind the Leafs in the standings. And while Philadelphia didn't exactly get off to a good start at the beginning of the season, winning just 1 of their first 8, they have certainly been on a roll of late. And the Leafs know it'll be a much more competitive Flyers team they face tonight.
If you and Doug McLean can do that, then I think anybody can do that. Okay, let's talk Marty St. Louis. We know that the New York Rangers have made an offer for him, but Nick, how high of a price will it be to get St. Louis?
It doesn't look like...
So how much of an influence was Christine in your decision to go to the broadcasting route?
Well, I don't think any influence for me to go in there. I think what stands out for me is just Chris's trailblazing, mindset of following a path that she's always been interested in sports, always been a big part of hockey. She's a great connector. She's a communicator. She's not afraid to, interact with anybody at any level. And I think that kind of confidence really stood out for me in watching her path, from working in arena at Maple Leaf Gardens, working at the Hockey Hall of Fame. And she's a great connector and a great communicator, way better than I am. We laugh, like she loves doing stuff like that. You can sense it in her energy. And so I've always said that she has no thanks for any of our influence on her getting there. She's done all that on her own, and I just think it's been a great combination. That the fact that we started at Sportsnet together back in 1989, and here we are today, still in the business, doing things together. I get an opportunity to see her a lot more because of it, and I couldn't be more proud. I just think she's got a real gift of connecting people and communicating, their thoughts, and she brings out good qualities in whoever she's interviewing. And it's been a great journey for her, and I've been really pleased and proud that I've been connected with her through it in the work that we've done over the last couple of decades.
Yeah, she really is a terrific broadcaster, and as you mentioned, their confidence is off the charts there. So let's talk about the Battle of the Blades. You ended up winning the Battle of the Blades with Jamie Soleil, ended up marrying your partner in the process of as this unfolded. I guess you guys had a daughter together, I understand, who might be a pretty good skater, maybe, I'm thinking?
No, Samantha is 10 years old, and she's not really into the hockey or skating. She's her real big passion right now is actually cheer. She is in cheer competitions.
Okay.
And good to see her get an opportunity to she's got an amazing energy about her, and a lot of fun, but never followed in the hockey footsteps at all, but interested obviously in watching. But no, her good passion is cheer, so it's a lot of fun to to watch her get passionate about something and entertain in that regard.
Clearly your back was a little bit better when you were doing Battle of the Blades.
Not much, but
Oh.
yeah, unfortunately, had my moments there, as I still do every day. But it's one that I was able to get through it anyway.
So you worked with a couple of the all-time great play-by-play voices, Jim Hughson, Chris Cuthbert. Working with Chris for a number of years now. Tell us what have you learned from Chris?
Well, I think from both. For me, going from Jim, who I knew a little bit and I've listened to, just had such an automatic connection, a really kindred spirit. We thought the same, we communicated the same. Our time together before a game was as fun than as doing the game. We always said we did the game the night before the game at dinner and talked about what we thought we would see. So we just had a connection all the way through until he fittingly decided to retire, and I'm glad that he's happy that his life is fulfilled and not missing being in the broadcast booth. Chris, I've listened to Chris in so many different ways, from CFL football, which I'll listen to and watch, and then Hockey Night in Canada, and then obviously at TSN. So you have a picture of the guy in your mind of what he'll be like, and then his cadence as a play-by-play man. So it's an adjustment going from having a partner for basically 20 years almost with Hughie to a new one. And it's like anything, it's been a great connection with a guy who, again, I think brings out different things in me than maybe Hughie does. He's got a different mindset a little bit. It's kind of fun at this stage in my life too, to be with a new partner and go, oh yeah, okay, that's different. It's not the same old routine that we get into. Now Chris and I are able to make our own routine, which is a lot of fun. But he's a Hall of Fame guy who just the meticulous detail that he has in his preparation, in his mindset of how he looks at the game. And it's been a great new beginning again. When you get in this business as long as the two of us have both been, it's kind of nice to have a new look. And I think Chris and I have connected really well, and he's been a great partner to work with. And as I said, much like my NHL playing career, I've been blessed with just like amazing partners to have.
Wow, yeah.
Two guys of that quality is really something, and something I don't take for granted. Not everybody gets that kind of support throughout their career.
Okay, so Gretzky, Lemieux, Messier, McGillney, Coffey, Fuhr, Cuthbert, Hughson. You worked with, you beat around some of the all-time greats. Is there any commonality amongst them all?
Yeah, I just great performers don't get there by accident. The preparation is everything, the mindset, the confidence, but the diligence and detail. Like the devil is always in the detail. Mess always had a saying, proper preparation prevents poor performance. I use that a lot. And I just think the commonality in all those Hall of Fame guys. I look at the names that you just said from a hockey perspective, they're in the Hall of Fame. And the guys from the broadcast are no different. Hall of Fame broadcasters like Jim and Chris. You never take for granted that things are just going to happen. You have to be prepared each and every day like it's the most important game of your life. And I think that is one thing that, to me, as a person and a player coming to the Edmonton Oilers, taught me all of those lessons, and the players. Not that Mario didn't have it as a player. Our team in Pittsburgh didn't have that commitment collectively. But going to Edmonton was a life changer. And I said to Slats turned 80 last year, and sent him a good message. And when I was in Pittsburgh this year on that 36th anniversary of my trade on November 24th, 87, I just said to him, I go, thanks for believing in me and thanks for making that change for me because it changed my life. And, I think everything I took from playing with Mark and Glenn and Wayne and Kevin and all the great players there are what I take into my broadcast. It's no different. I've been fortunate to do the last 15 Stanley Cups in a row and
Wow.
not lost is the special moment when you're not the guys doing it, but you're the ones that have to bring out the importance of it and the aspects of it that are so special. And I don't take that for granted at all. And I thank being a part of that Oiler organization for laying the groundwork for what you have to do to hopefully have some success in what you endeavor.
Right. And I think you'll be heading to the Hall of Fame too, my friend. So you got a chance to call most Maple Leaf hockey games. Are they capable of winning it all?
You know what? The capability is one that, I'm not a prognosticator of saying, okay, who's going to win the Stanley Cup? Even when we get the playoffs started, I think each year the playoff journey changes so much within the playoffs themselves that a team like look at last year beginning. I don't think you would have picked Florida to be the one to go in there, or even Vegas at that at the very beginning time. To me, the scrutiny that the Leafs are under all the time is not unlike other Canadian cities, or when you haven't had the success, it just grows and it can become an anchor. I just think that you need to break that sequence at some point. And the one thing I'll be looking for, and so I don't know if I have an answer for you that if this is the year or not, but you have to be able to win differently. Like, you have to be able to win in different ways. You can't be a team that, has great regular season success and winning the same way. Your top players are the guys who, there is not unlike other teams, but the core four, if you want to say, are the offensive guys supplying it all the time. And all of a sudden the game changes because the game does change in the playoffs where you have to learn to win a different way. You might have to change the way you even play as a player, but collectively as a group. I thought they made some strides like that last year and were able to find a way to claw through, a first round win. But they weren't able to do that when the second round against Florida was a different type of series, was a different type of game. And what they haven't been able to do to this point is I can throw a different kind of game at you and win. Like, I can throw a 2-1 game at you for 3 out of the 4 wins that you need in this round against Florida and win. You end up losing those overtime goal games that, if you win that, it changes everything. And that's the next step for them. I'm not sure they're going to be able to do it, but I think they're of the mindset now that you have to be able to adjust your game accordingly to whatever presents itself series to series. As they talked about earlier, the playoffs aren't the same. The first 3 rounds are different than the final. And, I think that's where the teams like even Vegas finding a way to win some tight games and change the way they play. And you might bury a team one night, but you have to play another mistake-free, hard-checking game the next night to win a 1-goal game. I don't think the Leafs have consistently been able to get there yet, but that's what every team aspires to do to become Stanley Cup champs.
Right. And like you said, Gretzky said there was 3 seasons. There's regular season, playoffs, and then the Stanley Cup final. And a lot of things have to go right in order for that to happen and to go your way. So, okay, question I'd like to ask all my guests is, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Ooh. Oh, best advice. You know what? My dad, you always get asked as a player, what did your dad do to get you ready as a player and get, as you were a young kid growing up? I think I say this to my boys and my daughters when they're in any sporting event or any life event. My dad, when I went to the rink, would always just say, son, work hard, keep smiling, have fun. And, it became sort of a catchphrase for us all the way through of just saying, if you're grounded in being a happy, smiling person that is having fun in their life but working hard at everything they do, I think it can be a recipe for success. And it kind of became a catchphrase for me my entire way through, and the way I've tried to present that to the kids too, that if you live your life with those principles, and the hard work being the important one, I think good things will happen.
I love that mantra. Work hard, keep smiling, have fun. That's the point. Listen, Craig, thank you so much for taking this time to join us. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on. Take care.
All right, more sports when we come back. Thanks, Craig.
Rely on Walton Restoration's 40-plus years of excellence in residential and commercial restoration. Their strong reputation is built on workmanship, professionalism, and outstanding customer service. Trust Walton as your dependable partner in emergencies, serving Durham, Kawartha, and Northumberland regions. Call 905-725-5666 or visit waltonrestoration.com. Experience top-tier workmanship and service. Walton Restoration, the trusted name in property restoration. Join satisfied customers like me. Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca. MNP, a leading Canadian national accounting, tax, and business accounting firm. MNP proudly serves and responds to the need of their clients in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Through partner-led engagements, MNP provides a collaborative, cost-effective approach to do business and personal strategies to help people and organizations to succeed across the country and around the world. With local offices in Oshawa, Mississauga, Burlington, and more, their team is here to support you. Visit mnp.ca today to learn more. And we want to thank all the folks who make this show possible. These are friends, trusted business associates, and all-around great folks. We highly recommend them all. Thank you for your support of Canadian and local sports. A reminder that the show is available on iTunes, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, and Pocket Casts, as well as the Spanglish Network, Buzz TV, Zingo TV Live. Also, check out the show on YouTube. All of our past great shows are there, clips and shorts, lots to see. You can stay there all day. Like and subscribe. It's absolutely free. Thanks once again to Craig Simpson for being on the program. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Brian Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in the early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today. Let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678. Rooted in 60 years of tradition, Sleepy Hollow is a private golf club with a friendly community of members just minutes from Toronto. With mature trees and rolling fairways, Sleepy Hollow provides a challenging and enjoyable experience for passionate golfers. Enjoy great golf, amazing dining, and a picturesque patio second to none. Visit SleepyHollowCountryClub.com. Hi there, I'm Joe Tilley. Are you ready for an adventure of a lifetime? Next March, during the enchanting cherry blossom season, join me and my wife for an unforgettable 2-week journey to Japan and South Korea. In Japan, you'll experience the magic of the season as we visit the stunning Osaka Castle against a backdrop of cherry blossoms. Feed the adorable Sika deer at Nara Park, glide through picturesque landscapes on the famed bullet train, cruise on Lake Kawaguchi, and witness the awe-inspiring view of Mount Fuji. Relax in natural hot springs and savor a delightful Fuji dinner banquet while dressing in traditional robes. And of course, we'll dive into Tokyo's cutting-edge technology scene. In Korea, dress in elegant hanbok attire and step back in time at Cheongdokgung Palace. Wander through Andong Village, a true glimpse into Korea's rich heritage. Delight your taste buds with the flavors of Korean barbecue. We'll even visit the DMZ area to get a glimpse of mysterious North Korea. And guess what? This incredible journey is all yours for just $54.99, all-inclusive, with direct flights from Vancouver, or $58.99 from Toronto. Book now to unlock up to an extra $1,700 in upgrades and savings. Let's make some memories. Let's explore. Let's travel. Guests on Joe Tilley Sports receive a gift certificate from Classica Imports. Top-of-the-line imported men's clothing. Check out the Classica Essential Collection now. Go to shopclassica.com.